Hey, man. Good. How's it going?
Anyone who spends any time out in normal America, out of Washington, D.C., out of the swamp, off the hill, they see how bad things are for everyday Americans. Whether you are a working class family or you are a senior on a fixed income, you're getting squeezed every which way. And so things haven't been easy under the Biden administration. And so while Democrats can point to the fact that they may have passed some legislation here and there, it's really been at the expense and to the detriment of the American people in our country. You have the Democrats controlling the White House, the House, and the Senate, and still we have seen record spending, historic inflation, gas prices through the roof, a record number of illegals coming through the border. Fentanyl is now the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 35. And of course, the economy is crashing. We're officially in a recession. So people aren't happy. They don't like this one-party rule. They don't like the so-called solutions, and the spending has gotten out of control. And like I said, it's at the expense of everyday working-class Americans. I don't think anyone is against a above-all energy approach, but a great example is in my own district. One of my electric providers, they've reduced their carbon emissions by 48% using a transition to natural gas from coal. But what we're seeing is because of the war on the domestic energy here in the United States that is being waged by the Biden administration, electric costs are going through the roof because even though they're reducing their carbon footprint and they are really working to try to deliver an efficient and clean alternative, it's costing people at the end of the day, and it's costing businesses and families. And my district, they've had enough of it. I think it's really concerning that you have really seen a full-on assault of our federal agencies being used against everyday American people. Not just this week, where the former president was targeted by the FBI, but you had the DOJ working in concert to target parents who attended school board meetings, labeling them domestic terrorists. And then today, here we are debating where 87,000 new IRS agents will be specifically targeting working class families and small businesses making under $400,000. We know that to be true because the Senate Democrats rejected the amendment that would have prohibited that action from going forward. So there may be a lot of talk out there, but the actions are what are showing Americans is going on up here in Washington. This government and this Biden administration does not trust the American people, and they're using their power to weaponize federal agencies against them.
Well, I'm concerned that there are a lot of, to your own questions here, a lot of unanswered questions. And such an unprecedented move. I'm not sure the Attorney General had thought about some of these things, and certainly the concerns that have been raised across our country. Overall, I think the American people just have a lot of questions about how this process was carried out, and especially because it's an unprecedented move.
Well, I think people want everyone to be held accountable to the law. Whether you're a president, a past president, or an average citizen, nobody is above the law, and that's really the reaction that I've had. I think for the most part, people want to see the process play out. I agree with that. I don't want to interfere with what law enforcement is doing, but I think it would be wrong to take the position because this person is a former president that we should look the other way when there could be violations of the law. We can't do that, and I don't think people would like to see that happen. He'll have his day in court. People are going to say what they're going to say to try to defend him. I think we ought to withhold judgment until everyone's had their chance to present the evidence and make the decision that the judicial system will make.
If President Trump took classified information and took them to a hotel, a golf resort, his residence, I think we all ought to have a problem with that. And it's hard to speak out of your mouth on one end and being critical when Hillary Clinton had emails talking about her daughter's wedding and getting all worked up about that. And now we're talking about classified information, being at a golf resort and not getting worked up about that. I'm married to the sheriff of our county, and so he's been in law enforcement for 40 years. And I really have difficulty understanding this attacking police or the Department of Justice or the FBI when they're doing what their jobs tell them to do. Well, I'm a Democrat in a Trump district, so I do believe in doing everything you can to work across the aisle and being reasonable and listening to people. But I'm also a former investigative reporter who believes at getting to the truth. And so look, what guides me is, first of all, we take an oath when we're sworn in, and that oath is to our Constitution. And so I think what we shoot for here is the truth, and let this play out and give it a little time.